Welcome back to Third Phase of Moon. My name's Blake Cousins. Tonight we're going to go over all kinds of things in regards to UFOs, alien abductions, and the meteorite that just hit Russia. Incredible stuff going on this week at Third Phase of Moon, videos from around the world, and we're accepting them via Third Phase of Moon. And our special guest tonight, Stan Romanek, alien abductee, best-selling novelist. He has a book out, Messages, and it's a New York bestseller. He's appeared on Larry King Live. He's got a major story going on. It's actually continuing. It's been going on for years. All kinds of video material to back up his claims of aliens, UFOs, you name it. He's got it. Stan Romanek is here on Third Phase of Moon, and I want to thank him for being here. Stan, welcome to Third Phase of Moon and the radio show.
Oh, thanks for having me on.
Hey, Stan, you've had alien abductions going on for many years. Tell me, when did you start to realize that something wasn't right in your life?
Really, I should have realized something wasn't right in my life when I was a kid, but, when you're a kid, you don't know any better. Probably 2001. I had stuff happen in 2000. I saw my first major UFO, but, I was kind of naive. I blew it off as, some kind of military experiment, but then, just things kept happening over and over and over, and I started getting a little paranoid, and it was what it was. It is what it is, stuff followed me around everywhere and continues even now.
Well, this stuff, can you explain to me in detail, like, when you first realized, okay, now this has to do something, I believe, in being involved with extraterrestrials and aliens from other planets?
Well, believe it or not, that didn't come till quite a few years after my first abduction experience. My brain just couldn't handle what was going on. I refused to believe that this stuff was real. I mean, I was a diehard skeptic. And, they pretty much had to hit me over the head over and over again to get me to finally realize that, hey, there's something going on. And what kind of turned it around for me really was the government harassment. Why would they harass me unless something really was happening? Most of the time they probably would have just, if nothing, in my mind, if nothing was happening, they wouldn't have, they would have just blew it off. But I was being followed, I found listening devices in my house, our phones were tapped. This stuff is real, the real thing. We weren't making any of it up. And, there was the fact that most everything that happened seemed to happen with lots of people around, even to this day. So
I've looked into your case, and there was an incident you had that actually turned quite violent. Were these guys men in black that were trying to intimidate you? You came away with some injuries.
No, they were men in black. If they're really, a lot of people say men in black. If any men in black came to my door, and I thought they were even remotely, because some speculate that they might be extraterrestrial, trust me, we're pretty aggressive. We've been through a lot. I grew up in the ghetto. If something like that came to my house, we'd probably clock them over the head and hide them in our basement.
Well, you had that one incident where you actually were in an altercation. You put a chain to one guy's head and actually knocked him out?
Well, yeah, it was probably black ops. I can't say military. I grew up in the military, and there's a lot of really good people in the military and a lot of really good people in the government. This is some covert kind of thing. They were all, you could tell they were some kind of highly trained military group because they had the haircut and the pressed pants and and I was riding my bicycle to work because I worked real close and I wanted to save on gas. And at the time I was really into bikes because I used to be an Olympic cyclist. And this group of people in this black unmarked SUV pulled up alongside of me and started saying something. I just blew it off and just kept riding my bike on the sidewalk. And they somehow knew exactly where I parked my bike and how to get to the back door of where I worked. And they cut me off and started saying stuff about, the UFO stuff, and I need to keep my mouth shut. And, then they started, trying to fight with me. And, again, I grew up in went to a pretty tough school. I mean, I've been stabbed, I've been shot at, that's just in my childhood. So, I wasn't afraid to, defend myself. And I had a bicycle chain wrapped around the seat of my bicycle, and this guy started hitting me, and another guy that was behind the passenger came out and started fighting with me and pushed me off my bike and started punching me. And then the guy behind the passenger seat, came out and did these weird karate kind of stances. I was just laughing at him. And I got my chain out and I clocked him on the side of the head. And as this was happening, these cars were driving by because, there was a gas station just right, up the alleyway there. And they had called the police. Well, when I hit the guy, I hit him hard enough, he was shaking on the ground. I swear I thought I killed him. And I felt a weird tickle in my lower back, and I hit the ground. I found out later I was tased. And they grabbed their friend, shoved him in the car, and took off. And one guy tried to follow him, I guess, and they went into a military base, Schreiber Air Force Base, I think it was, in Colorado Springs, Colorado.
You get threats from, unknown personnel. You're thinking black ops. What do they leave with you on your last thoughts of, their message? What did they want you to do?
Just shut up, just keep quiet. And it's ridiculous. It doesn't make sense to me. I know there's paid debunkers. There's a paranormal group in Denver that are well-paid debunkers. They debunk everybody, and everybody knows where they're getting their money from. And they like to pick on me. And, see, that's what they do. There's disinformation out there. They try to make everybody look like they're crazy. People like me look like I'm crazy or I'm lying or, I don't know what their gig is, but they just don't want me to talk about it, I guess. And the fact that they harass us so much and we find listening devices in our house, we just found one 5 months ago, in the light switch in my office. The publishing company I'm with did a sweep, and I guess they got a phone call. The head of the publishing company got a phone call or something, and he hired somebody to come do a sweep, and sure enough, they found two listening devices. It doesn't make sense to us because we're very open about everything that happens. We are hiding nothing, and if they want to waste their money, all these years, it's got to cost them a few million at least. All the stuff they've done.
Great dollars at work here at the United States government. Just this past year, Obama, signed executive decision orders to, spy on its own people using surveillance. Well, the Patriot Act did that, so they're not really doing anything illegal. But now they're spying with drones and costing millions of dollars spying on us when they should be, going after the real bad guys. We got our special correspondent in from L.A., Dr. John Elias. I'm sure he's got some questions for you. And if anybody's got some questions for, Stan Romanek, call in to 1-347-934-0378. Now, here, Dr. John Elias, what do you think about the Stan Romanek story and how's it going into the future?
To tell you the truth, when I first saw this Romanek on Larry King Live, I was a little skeptical because that's all I saw was this Alien the Video recreation. But then I ended up seeing this 2-hour lecture posted online and then finally reading his book, and then I was blown away. I mean, this case is by far the most well-documented case. I mean, it has everything from the footage, which even people can then dispute. There was, equations that were given to Stan through these beings. Some of them that have been found out to be true. All of them are true. nonetheless. But one specifically was for an element 115 that was given to Stan 2 years prior to the civilians discovering it, which just goes to validate everything this man has said. And his first book, Messages, was amazing, but the book that really did it for me was Answers. That's his follow-up book, which kind of caught up to the future, to the time being now, and answered a lot of questions I've had over the years. So I just got to commend you, Stan, for being out there and telling your story, because it really needs to be told. One thing I wanted to ask you is hoping you could tell the listeners about. You had an incident written in your book about Grandpa Gray, that famous Gray picture that we have on Third Phase of Moon. You said where you woke up in the middle of the night, he was in your room, and he unzipped his skin off and showed himself as yellow. Can you tell her?
With me, it's not just, it's becoming a spiritual journey with me. It really is, because it's not just about little guys in, metal discs. It's multidimensional. It's crazy. I don't know how to explain what's in my head. But this particular incident, I was sleeping and I woke up and I couldn't wake my wife up, and I thought my stepdaughter was in the room, and I was half asleep, half awake, and I looked over, and I'm still kind of in that dream state, but I couldn't. It wasn't sleep paralysis. I know it wasn't sleep paralysis because, number one, I've never had that. I don't even know what that is. They talk about that all the time, but I could move my legs, and I was about to get up, and this little gray, and he's not really gray, more kind of a taupe-colored, gray-looking, though, as far as the physical characteristics, small, big head, huge eyes. And if you've ever seen that movie Cocoon, it really reminded me of that part in Cocoon where this little being suddenly somehow seemed to grab part of its skin and almost like it unzipped or peeled away its skin, and there standing in my room was this 7-foot-tall being of light. I couldn't talk, I couldn't move, I couldn't say anything. I was screaming at my wife and no sound was coming out of my mouth. I could move my arm, and I didn't want this thing to come at me, and it literally, and I can't tell you if it spoke in my head or if it actually said something. It said, "This is the form we take." And I don't remember the exact words. Basically, it told me it took that form because it's easier for me to handle something like that than what it truly was.
So it's interesting that Ron Howard movie Cocoon, there was that scene where the girl said, "Let me reveal myself," and then she peeled off her skin and turned to a being of light and energy. And then you were able, we released this video. You allowed us permission to use it. I think we're like the first day world exclusive. You put out this video of this surveillance shot of this, energy light flying over your house over there. Could you tell us a little bit about this one?
Oh, yeah. We have stuff like that all the time. In fact, when National Geographic was here not that long ago to do Chasing UFOs, I don't know why they didn't show it. We had that stuff playing in our trees out back. They captured it. And we had surveillance. We don't anymore because it doesn't matter. I mean, they show up so much that we don't need it. But, this was in the good old days, the scientists put up surveillance, and, this is one of those times when we had something happen, and it captured this ball of light flying over the house and then vanishing in midair. It actually kind of disrupted the camera electromagnetically, we think, because the camera got crackly, and then all of a sudden it showed up in the house. What's interesting about that video, and when you slow it down and you zoom in, and the analysts looked at it, and they're absolutely amazed because this ball of light literally comes out of the house, out of the wood, goes back in like a needle through fabric. You know, it goes in and out, and like somebody's, and it's really crazy, and you can see it popping in and out, and then it disappears.
You know, it's an incredible video, and we looked at it really close. We zoomed in on it, enhanced it. We put a lot of, contrast, and it was bright enough to actually put a spotlight on the grass below as it went by. People are saying it's some kind of like maybe string or whatever with a flashlight, but yeah, you go try and put a string in a flashlight and see if you get the same result. I don't think you're going to get it. We got another caller in. We got 2 callers in. If anybody has a question for Ken Romanek or Dr. Johnny Elias or Third Phase of Moon, we're on the panel. Go ahead, 516. Who am I speaking with?
Yeah, hi, Blake. This is Russ Majorana from, now I'm from Florida, but originally I was from Long Island, Farmingdale, Long Island, New York. I called in tonight because I wanted to tell you and Stan and everyone else of something that I witnessed, and not just myself, but my sister and myself. Thank God my sister was there with me. But it happened in Plainview Hospital. Now, I'm sure you're all familiar with these horror movies that you see in the hospital that, when something crazy happens, there's nobody around. Well, it just happened to be that there was nobody around in this hospital. My sister and I were standing by the elevator door, and there was, just to set the scene, there was 2 elevator doors in front of us with the panel that you push the button. And there's a lobby to the right. Nobody was in the lobby. There was no security guard there. It was in between shifts for the nurses. So it was like around 7:15 p.m. And we pushed the button to go back upstairs to see my mother. And the elevator just never came. It was like, what the hell's going on? 5 minutes goes by and no elevator. So then this woman comes from the office area. She comes across the lobby. She's wearing black pants, a white lab coat. She had black short cropped hair, little chubby face. She was about 5'6", and she weighed about 165 pounds. And she's standing directly in front of the door with her nose just about touching the door. And I looked at my sister because we're standing by the buttons, and I'm going, she's going to be standing there for quite a while, with her face pressed up against the door. So my sister laughs, and the lady didn't even turn and look at us. Usually, a common thing would be just like look over to see what they're laughing at or whatever. Nothing. She just faced straight ahead. Well, right then the door just opened right up. I mean, she stood there. This is how fast it happened. She came up. She stood in front of the door. I thought what I said, and I told my sister, and then the door opens up. She walks in. Now, we've been waiting for this thing to open up, the door to open up. And for some reason, call it mind control, but we did not move. I did not have the slightest little want to move. Nothing. Neither did my sister. We didn't move. We just watched her walk in. The door starts to close, and just before it fully closes, I snapped out of it, and I said, Lynn, hit the button. She's just like staring at the door. So I lunged forward. I hit the button. The door still never closed all the way. The door opens up. We walk in. No lady, no back door that opens up for the elevator. She was gone. I'm telling you, she was gone. This lady was not, it wasn't a paranormal thing where she was a ghost or something for the hospital. This lady was real. I mean, she looked real. She just really looked real. So the thing is, following day, I went to the office, and I told them about this. And one of the ladies from the cubicle stands up and she goes, thank you. I says, for what? She goes, thank you for validating what I saw. She goes, I was walking to that elevator, she said, and the door was closing, and then an arm came out with a lab coat, a white lab coat, and the door opened up. She goes, I walked in, and she goes, there was nobody in there. So I said, oh my God.
Wow, it's something straight out of a movie like They Live, John Carpenter's movie, where you put on the glasses and you reveal what's really going on in the world. Do you believe something like that, Stan, as far as, looking at through a frequency that there could be a revelation of, these entities or these aliens amongst us at all times?
You know, absolutely. I didn't used to really think about that, but when the caliber of people we know, the caliber of scientists we know, you know, the ex-military people we know, ex-naval intelligence, ex-this, ex-that, you know, I'm finding out there are multidimensional beings in this space around us. Everything is full of something. You talk to Dr. Claude Swanson, Dr. Jack Kasher, top physicists in the world, pretty much. And they'll tell you that this space is filled with something. It's just we can't see it and they can't see us because it's either a different vibration or a different dimension, what we would call dimension, density, whatever you want to call it. So yeah, I do believe that there are things there, and there are things that are very high-level beings, you know, very intelligent, you know, they evolved to the point where maybe even some of them don't need bodies. They can manipulate time, space, and pop in and out at will. I'm absolutely sure there's stuff like that.
Time and space.
To me, it's sad because there are people that don't even believe in UFOs.
Yep, UFOs and interdimensional and quantum theories, you know, it could be all relevant or it could be totally, you know, different theories, and people, you know, got to understand there's things out there people don't understand, and, you know, they start to criticize when they don't understand. We got a call in from, you know, 206. Welcome to Third Phase of the Moon. Who am I speaking with?
Hi, Blake. This is Eric McCarthy. I'm creating a documentary in the Seattle area on some recent UFO sightings around November of 2012. We've had quite a bit of activity here.
Most definitely. You know, we just received a few videos from Seattle, Washington. You know, Eric, I want to talk to you about your documentary here in just a couple minutes. But do you have any questions for Stan Romanek in regards to, you know, his alien abduction and his case?
I was interested in knowing, I heard him talking about the ability for creatures to move interdimensionally, and I thought I would be interested in hearing if he has an opinion about the fireball over Russia and whether or not that could be related to some sort of, you know, is that some sort of a portent, or is there, you know, is there something that could be, you know, related to people coming or going, or
you know,
is it all just coincidence?
I've seen that same exact thing actually over the house. It was a little bit different though, not exact thing. I saw something that looked like a sparkler, and you know, you have to be careful, though, because there's a lot of things that are just natural phenomena that we don't understand yet, like, you know, electromagnetic discharges and things like that. I'm not saying that's what this is, but the possibility,
I think
it could be anything.
Ever been able to see a meteorite come down over a populace in a major, you know, country and injure people. It's a first in my lifetime that I know of, and I think of anybody living in history for a long time. And you know, it's a major event. The video shots were spectacular. You know, the hull's amazing, and it was happening right when this other, asteroid was flying by, and it was a near miss. It was quite a coincidence that happened on the same day that the asteroid just, you know, flew by.
I guess that's where my question is whether or not that's just a coincidence, or was that some sort of, you know, was that what happens when people get off the asteroid? Or I know that sounds far-fetched, but I guess what I'm saying is, doesn't it seem like the coincidence is so great that it kind of begs for a separate explanation?
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. You know, there's always a possibility that it wasn't an asteroid. There's always that possibility. You know, when you do investigations and what you're left with, I mean, if you pull everything apart and you pick at everything, no matter how bizarre it is, what you're left with is probably the truth. So, you know, looking at that video, and you know, unless you can find pieces of the asteroid itself, you know, anything's possible. I'm learning that. For Christ's sakes, I'm just, you know, I didn't believe in Bigfoot, and maybe that possibility's in my head that even Bigfooters is real. So,
Bigfooters, you know, yeah, it's, cryptozoology is the big thing now. It's actually become more of a searched word than UFOs on Google. It's, you know, people are interested in life forms, and Stan Romnick's captured a few on tape and video.
Yeah, and, you know, not just me, people that have been around me. I mean, we had a party and we chased one in our backyard with multiple people there doing it. So,
Wow.
That's just the way it is. You know, anything's possible. But you have to be careful, though, because you can't be so open. I've met people that believe in everything. You know, I don't believe in the hollow earth theory. I'm sorry, I just don't. It doesn't make sense. You can't have a hollow earth and still have a magnetic field. We would be dead if we had a hollow earth, because the sun would have wiped us out, because the radiation would have got to us. We have to have a solid, either molten or solid iron core to create the magnetic field that we have. So, you know, there's things like that. You know, I try to stay skeptical, but at the same time, you know, I have to have somewhat of an open mind after all I've been through. Possibilities are endless. Anything's possible, I swear. Really, anything's possible.
You know, it is amazing what's going on over there where you're at, Stan Romnick, and, you know, even in Seattle, Eric McCarthy made contact with us at Third Phase of Moon, and he's working on a documentary out there. Can you tell us what you're doing? And, you know, have you captured anything on video over there so far?
Well, lots of stories. There's a series of sightings that, for the best information, the National UFO Reporting Center website has a good collection of all the various eyewitness accounts, and they go from police officers to retired aircraft pilots, and they all focus around the first few weeks in November, just this past November, a few months ago. And they're all orange or red balls that were seen in the Mount St. Helens region, which is coincidentally a semi-dormant volcano. I say semi because, you know, in a geological sense, an eruption in the last 30 years is, you know, not so, that's not such a long time. But I think it's interesting that there's such a wide breadth of people that are coming forward and reporting these sightings, and it's happening in an area that, with the volcano and a lot of the rural area around there, it's an area that I think would lend itself well to somebody wanting to come to the planet and, you know, conduct some sort of studies or whatever, and they'd be somewhere where they would be somewhat not seen.
But they're finding new planets, Earth-like systems daily, and, you know, they're coming out. Just, you know, 10 years ago, people and the scientists wouldn't agree that there's any kind of planet out there that could sustain life or be anything like Earth. And, you know, obviously when you just look out in a little pinprick into the sky with your telescopes, you're finding galaxies and, you know, mass. So there's got to be life out there, and the idea of them coming to Earth is very likely.
I think that that's one of the things that I hear a lot when talking to people, and also you kind of saw a lot of that today with the, and I don't mean to keep bringing it back to the light in Russia, but you know, I think that things like that, or the near miss from this other asteroid, are things that kind of open up people's minds to the greater galaxy, just how large it is out there and how small we are. And I think that when people start to think that way, they start to open their mind a little bit more to all the very real possibilities of what could be out there.
Exactly. Hey, Johnny Elias, what did you think of the news out of Russia when you first heard it? Were you like, oh my God, thank God it wasn't over California?
Yeah, actually, the first thing that I thought about was the Tunguska event. There are many theories of what that could be because that was well over 100 years ago, but that's the first thing that came to my mind. And the second was, how the hell can this be happening in not only once in a lifetime or several lifetimes, but on the very same day that we have the nearest miss with an asteroid that could have been terrific, almost an extinction level event on the same day. So it's a little odd to have them on the same day. Too coincidental for me. But it could be anything. Could be anything.
I thought it was odd that nobody seemed to know this one was coming. They had mapped the other one, and they knew that this, they gave us forewarning of the other asteroid, and this one kind of came right out of the blue.
Well, there's something weird about this asteroid, too. If you look, it's almost got, as it's going through the atmosphere and burning up, it leaves a trail of smoke. But this almost has like a double contrail behind it, which I think is really bizarre.
There's a point where it comes in, and then it does the burst, and then after the burst, it looks like it almost possibly broke up or something.
That could be, but I just found that interesting.
When you heard the thunderous claps and the sonic booms that were going off, it must have been just terrifying, just being on the ground, thinking, "Is this the end of the world?"
Could you imagine if that happened December 21st?
Oh, my God. Yep. That would have been mass panic. Everybody, I go around asking people, so what were you thinking? Were you scared? Were you concerned about the end of the world and the date? And most people went out and honestly said, no, I didn't think anything of it. No. But then I started asking, well, do you think the governments from around the world could have possibly took advantage of this date and did something spectacular and blamed it on a prophecy? And then they go, oh yeah, well I thought about that, and that would be scary. And then they're being hypocrites. Yeah, they were thinking about that date.
It's funny because I talk about that in my book a little bit, and I definitely talk about it in my lectures, the inconsistencies in the Mayan calendar stuff. And I've been an advocate of, because I've, when you talk to Mayan elders, real Mayan elders, they honestly think white people are crazy. And, my wife has a blog, and we posted this great thing, and the head Mayan elder talking about what's really to come with the Mayan calendar. It has nothing to do with they don't even have the word apocalypse in their language. And so just one English New Age guy started this whole nonsense, and people ran with it. So when it was finally done with and over with, it's like, see, told you. But we've got some work ahead of us. We really do. But I think things are definitely changing.
Stan, just like you said, that one English guy started and ran with it. It's funny, right, because the Mayans said that the calendar ends. They didn't say it would be the end of the world. They just said that their calendar ends on this date. And you're right, one person came out of it and took the information and ran with it. And next thing you know, the whole world is talking about this end of the world on this date. But really, that's not what they said at all.
Yeah, and it's not really that the calendar ended, it's the date. It's like the year ended, the millennium ended, the cycle ended.
Cycle,
and
exactly.
Then they couldn't make any more calendars because the conquistadors came in and wiped them out pretty much, so...
The good old days, right? The poor Mayans. We live in Hawaii, and I think if, the Spanish came over instead of Captain Cook, I don't think it'd be the same over here. I don't think it'd be a state anymore of United States. I don't think even Hawaiians would have, still existed. They just would have wiped it out like they did those guys.
Yeah. Well, it was about greed. It was about gold. It was about the church too. It was about
Speaking of the church, this guy comes in, wants to be Pope, and then, steps down. First time in, 600 years ago, wants to step down. How ironic. I think it's kind of a lame thing to do. What do you think about the Vatican covering things up in regard to UFOs and, aliens coming to the planet Earth?
Well, they did cover it up for a little while, but then they backtracked, apparently, because I was there. I'm friends with Paola Harris, and she was the one that helped break the story with Monsignor Balducci. Monsignor Balducci was really the right-hand man of the Pope. And he was, I have it on my website. You can go see it for yourself, where this guy's talking about that, there are ETs, and it's okay to believe in them, and they're different types. Some look like us, some don't. And then all of a sudden, I don't know what's going on, they backtrack. But what's really weird is I didn't think the Pope could quit. I mean, that's bizarre.
Well, he's quitting because he says he's getting old, but that was part of the job description, I thought.
Yeah, popes, they stay there their whole... I thought once you're a pope, you can't get out. I think it's more than that. I think it has to do with the, with the pedophile stuff going on, and, the Catholic Church has a lot to answer to, really. I mean, it really does.
Yeah, I don't think that in the past age has ever... I've known that in the past there's been some popes who've been fairly frail and old, if my memory serves correct. So I think that you could be right that there's something a little bit more than that. That's kind of a surface
there's something
story.
In the background we don't know, some kind of politics, some kind of...
cover-up, some kind of secret, like they always do. And, what is the point? Why not, they're supposed to be, bearers of Christ, or telling what God believes, and, keeping secrets from the people is what I don't think God had in mind. Hey, we're going to wrap this show up. We're just running a little bit out of time, but, we got a few more minutes, and I want you to tell me, Dr. Johnny Elias, about, your new radio show coming up on Freedom Radio, and we're pretty excited to hear about this. It's going to be a great show, and congratulations.
Thank you. It debuts on Saturday, March 9th. It's 2 to 4 Eastern, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And it's on freedomslips.com, S-L-I-P-S, like as in freedom is slipping away from the United States. And it'll be hosted by MUFON researcher and author Preston Dennett and I. And the first special guest is Stan Romanek. And, of course, Blake, we're expecting to have you on that show that day as well. And it's going to be a great old ride. We're talking about UFOs, conspiracies, and all sorts of other stuff. Again, freedomslips.com, debuting Saturday, March 9th.
Great. I look forward to your show and many others. John's been a great correspondent for us at Third Phase of Moon. He's put out his tentacles, got a lot of connections for us, and some major interviews, even thanks to Dr. Johnny Elias for this interview with Stan. He reached out to Stan on Third Phase's behalf, and he's making connections. He's going to have all kinds of special guests on the show. It's going to be great.
Thank you, Blake. And on top of that, speaking of covering things, when the UFO Congress comes up, you'll be the first channel to be posting up live updates straight from there.
Yep.
Yeah, the Live Congress Expo. Yeah, we're looking forward to that. It's going to be in Arizona. It's coming up, and we'll be there on the ground with Skype and live video coming straight out of the expo right here on Third Phase Moon. It's going to be the place to see up-to-date video. Stan Romanek, what are you going to be working on next? And congratulations on your bestseller.
Well, I'm going to be at the UFO Congress, actually selling my books, doing book signings coming up. And then from there, we've got a big talk in Florida coming up. I believe it's May. I believe it's May sometime. I've got to find out the details so I can put it up on my website. Just kind of plugging along.
There's speculation that your movie's coming out here soon. People have been talking about that for a couple of years, and everybody's waiting to see it. Any idea when that might come out?
I wished it'd come out sooner than later, but it's not up to me. It's up to J3 Films. Supposedly, it was supposed to come out in December, and then stuff happened. There's a lot of, for some reason, the powers that be don't really want this out. And so there's a lot of opposition. And as soon as they find money, all of a sudden the money disappears. It's just really creepy, crazy stuff. but it's going to be out supposedly in April. It was supposed to be out already. It was supposed to be out in December. Something happened, and they couldn't get to it. So it's supposed to be out in April. So, you know, the best.
Well, you let us know
know.
if you don't reach your date, and you know, Third Phase of the Moon, we go out, we shoot, we get things done. We don't waste time, and we're not. We want to get that information out. Let us know in the future if you need any help from Third Phase of the Moon. We'd love to help out.
You bet, and I'll see you guys in Arizona.
You got it. Hey, Stan Romanek, thanks for joining us. It's been a real pleasure.
Sure.
Where's your website? How do the viewers and listeners get in touch with you?
www.stanromanek.com.
Great. I suggest everybody check it out. He's got some amazing, you know, video analysis, evidence. It's amazing. And in the future, Stan, if you capture anything amazing, you know, we'd like to take a look at it at Third Phase.
Absolutely. I mean, it happens all the time. So
we'll be standing by. I really appreciate it. And Eric McCarthy, the documentary filmmaker out there working on some UFOs, eyewitness testimony, and bringing out the truth out of Seattle. Hey, thanks for joining us. Any last words, Eric?
It was a pleasure to be on the show and to have a chance to talk with Stan and the other gentleman. I'm sorry, I can't recall his name, but thanks for having me.
Yeah, Dr. John Elias, you know, he's going to have his show coming up. When is it again, John?
Saturday, March 9th.
Yep.
Saturday, March 9th. Go ahead, give him one last shout-out on that.
Saturday, March 9th on freedomslips.com. Slips as in slipping on the floor, SLIPS. And it's going to be 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 2 to 4 p.m. Eastern Time on Saturday, March 9th with Preston Dennett and I.
And I'll be there. I'll chime in here at the second half of your radio show. I look forward to it. I want to thank everybody for joining us right here live via radio on Third Phase of the Moon, talking to Stan Romanek, Dr. John Elias, callers from around the world in regards to UFOs and aliens. And if you've captured anything amazing in regards to UFOs, you could contact Third Phase of the Moon via Skype or Facebook and visit our new website at www.thirdphaseofmoon.net. My name's Blake Cousins. Keep your eyes on the skies, and we'll see you again next time.